Many of you probably know by now that I had a little bit of a mishap a few weeks ago. You probably saw me hobbling about for a few days trying to baby my poor knee after a figure skating accident. And you may know that I'm not allowed back on the ice for a little while yet until my doctor clears me. And being banished from the ice, from something that I love, is hard, and it's educational. I've learned that when you are cut off from something that you love, all kinds of things that are connected to it suddenly take on new significance. Example, there are a bunch of songs on the radio that I hate. Not because they're bad songs necessarily, at least not by my pretty easy to please standards, but because these songs are played over and over and over again at the ice rink. And when you skate 10 hours a week to the same short playlist, you very quickly begin to tire of the top 20 songs, let me tell you. But then when you can't skate, those annoying songs suddenly take on a new significance. You suddenly start enjoying them because they remind you of skating, literally down to your very bones. Seriously, I hear that familiar melody, that familiar beat, and suddenly I can practically feel myself gliding over the ice. And one such song that has been running on repeat in my head and in my bones for days and days now is Love Someone by Lucas Graham. You know the one. When you love someone, you open up your heart. When you love someone, you make room. If you love someone and you're not afraid to lose them, you probably never loved someone like I do. You probably never loved someone like I do. And now you can rise in body and spirit and join me in singing our closing hymn. Just kidding, but only slightly kidding, because in a way that Lucas Graham song, or at least its chorus, is kind of like my sermon today in miniature. Now, I've been watching this hospital drama, Grey's Anatomy. I'm a little behind everybody else in the world, but I've been watching it while banned from the ice, so maybe diagnoses on my brain right now. But I think Lucas's song does a pretty good job of helping define some of the most important signs and symptoms of love. When you love, you open up your heart to someone or something beyond yourself. You make room in your life for love. And yes, you fear losing your beloved. Your love, your beloved. We have many different loves in our lives, at least I hope that we do. This past Thursday, we celebrated love in its many different forms. And for your millennial minister, Facebook is often a really good testing ground to see what folks are focusing on during different holidays. And for Valentine's Day, I saw you celebrating all kinds of different kinds of love. Your love for your romantic partners, and your celebration of romantic love in its many different beautiful forms. Your love for your family, whether born or chosen. Your love for your friends, for your pets, even for your coworkers. I saw some doctors showering appreciation on nurses on Valentine's Day. And I saw people showering love on nature, on values like justice and mercy, and on beloved activities like music and painting. And I saw people express love for mystery, for hope, for the miracle of life, and for the divine in many different forms and by many different names. And it was beautiful. So many celebrations of many different types of love. I almost imagine just grabbing several of your posts and just throwing up on a slideshow and just letting you kind of read the things that you were celebrating. It was really wonderful. We often think of Valentine's Day as a celebration of romantic love. but your actual expressions of love on Valentine's Day suggest that it is much more than that. An element of what we celebrate on Valentine's Day may be commercially driven, of course. Hallmark has to sell those cards. But I think that, like the ancient Greeks, we really do celebrate many different kinds of love. Eros, or the love between romantic or sexual partners. Storge, or the love between family members. Philia, the love between friends. And agape, pure, selfless, divine love. No matter what kind of love it is that we are feeling, we often think of love as just that, as a feeling. Perhaps our hearts are filled with warm, fuzzy feelings like for a friend. Perhaps our hearts beat with fiercely protective feelings, such as love for a child. Perhaps our hearts soar with a powerful, intoxicating feeling, such as for a lover. But these are feelings. But love is so much more than a feeling. Love is also a way of relating to others. It is a way of moving through the world and encountering the other people and things within it. Love is active. Love is a verb, not just a noun. To love is to open our hearts. To love is to make space in our lives. To love is to fear losing those we love. To understand what it means to open our hearts to love, it helps to think about what it means to live with a closed heart. When our hearts are closed, we have erected strong barriers to that which is outside us, outside of our own feelings, our own needs, wants, hopes, and dreams. We are detached, isolated, alienated from, and unmoved by others. We are concerned first and foremost with ourselves, sometimes to the exclusion of anything or anyone else. And we see this sometimes with nationalism. A group of people may love their nation, their people, to the exclusion of all others. They harden their hearts. The well-being of people of other nations, even when connected to our own well-being, does not factor in. Hearts remain unmoved by the plights of others, whether they be refugees, people living in abject poverty, or people struggling with other humanitarian crises. But before we start getting all judgy, people with closed hearts are not necessarily jerks or narcissists. People have sometimes been hurt, are traumatized, or are just burned out. We may need strong boundaries to keep toxic people out, to protect us from boundary violations. Or we may need to give ourselves some room to breathe and to heal. We all close our hearts briefly now and then in our lives. Sometimes it is healthy that we do so, an act of self-care. It can help protect or replenish our inner resources and make it possible to offer our hearts more fully when we are ready to do so. But our hearts cannot remain closed forever if we are to live healthy and full lives. We are relational beings, and we thrive on the connections that we make with others, the deepest of which is love. But to connect as we are meant to, we must open our hearts. When love comes knocking on our doors, it is both an opportunity and a risk. A risk because it offers the promise of self-destruction, for relationships always change us. And it is an opportunity because healthy, loving relationships change us for the better. But any change can feel pretty scary. Because as soon as we open the gates to our hearts wide open to others, they might move in. They may start taking up room. They may even start rearranging things. But true love is an act of radical hospitality, not superficial hospitality like welcoming someone over for dinner and then escorting them out the door a few hours later, not like granting a temporary visa to harvest some crops and then sending them away and shrugging at their plight. True love is an act of radical hospitality. Radical refers to roots. True love is hospitality all the way down to the very roots. We're not just opening the gates of our hearts and sprinkling a few pretty, fragrant petals in the garden of our lives. We're transplanting this whole friggin' rose bush. Roots and thorns and wild sprawl and all, trying to figure out where to put it amid the messiness of our own lives. We're compromising. We're making space for another person's needs, priorities, and dreams alongside our own. And we're giving them the space to be their full selves, flaws and all. This doesn't mean that we have no boundaries, that we will accept anything and everything in our relationships, because love is covenantal. Love is about the promises that we make to one another about how we will be in relationship with each other. And sometimes covenants are broken, sometimes irreparably. But oftentimes broken promises can be mended along with broken hearts. We can enter back into covenant. We can renegotiate space. When we make room for our lives, for love, our lives are no longer just about us and our lives. We've opened our hearts like opening a door, and someone has moved in. Baggage, poor taste in furniture, and all. And that changes us. When we let love into our lives become intimately intertwined with the objects of our love, forming something holy and new. And this is beautiful and also risky and painful, because loss is a part of life and love as well. Even when we live long, full lives, goodbyes come, and those left behind grieve. And too often goodbyes are sudden or unexpected, or just come too soon. And yet love is still worth it. Because the beautiful, paradoxical thing about loss is that the fear of loss points to our capacity to love. And when we fear losing someone or something, it points to the presence of love in our lives. We fear loss or feel grief when someone we love is threatened or has been harmed. And the flip side of our pain and fear is that they can sometimes be solutions to that which threatens, harms, or diminishes life. Our pain and our fear can move us to protect that which we love, to advocate for it, to take steps necessary in our lives, to do what must be done to not only protect our loves, but to help them flourish and to grow. Love in that way is creative and triumphant. Even out of fear, pain, and grief, love can move us to nurture more beauty and more goodness in the world. There was a touching meme that was making the rounds on Facebook not too long ago about a little girl whose pug suffered from severe arthritis. One of you might have actually been the one who shared this. This little pug wasn't able to run any longer, even though he loved to run. But one day, the little girl strapped him into a stroller. And when the UPS truck came, she pushed that stroller down the street after it. And that little pug barked happily up that entire street the whole way until that UPS truck went around the corner. as they chase the mailman together. And the caption that goes with the meme says, "You know, just in case you forgot what love means." That little girl may have felt pain and fear for her dog. Pain that his arthritis made it hard for him to enjoy life to the fullest and made him suffer. Fear that the arthritis might get worse, that one day perhaps the family might have to put the dog to sleep to spare him further pain. But rather than letting that fear shatter her heart, break it into a million pieces, she instead opened her heart. And that's when amazing things can happen. That's when creative forces take hold of our lives. That's when we engage in acts of love, both great and small. That's when we do things to help spread goodness throughout the whole world. Sometimes courageous things, one action at a time, one gesture of love at a time. Love is powerful, my friends. It can rebuild the whole world from the foundation up. Love is more than just a feeling inside, but a way of relating to others and moving with them through the world. Whether it is the love of friends, family, lovers, the earth, pugs, or skating, or the great life-giving mystery that sustains and holds all, may that love tap insistently at the gates of our hearts so that we throw them wide open and welcome. May that love move into our lives and change them for the better. And may that love move us to cherish, protect, and nurture all that we love, and in doing so transform the whole world so that beauty and goodness abound. May it be so. Amen.